Live. I'm Jen DeTracey, and today this video is all about relief tips. It's all about reducing stress quickly through this release technique. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how I do that through a breathing release technique. I'm really excited to share this with you because I think you're going to be amazed at how well it can work to reduce stress. And in my life, I've been living with MS. Gosh, I've been living with MS for over 11 years now. And I've learned many different ways to focus on relieving stress. And I find that breathing tends to be the best way. But before I go there, I just want to talk a little bit about the scientific side of stress because, when you unpack that, it helps you to understand better how to deal with relieving stress. So, you may have heard of this, but if not, that's cool because I'm going to explain it all to you. We have three brains, and the oldest brain that's been around since, the cave person days is called the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain is just part of the entire brain system, but it was designed specifically to protect against predators. So, back in the days when men were out hunting, maybe even women too, they were always looking around to make sure that they were going to be able to be alive and bring the kill home to the family. And so when there was a predator, a bear, a cougar, who knows, like back then, what there might have been for them, uh, what happened was right away they went into fight or flight. And what that meant is that immediately their heart was beating faster, the blood was working harder, the breath was going really fast. And it's interesting because the pulse was up. So everything that it takes to go into saving oneself. And the other thing that was interesting is when the blood flow was happening, the increase of blood pressure, it wasn't on the surface. It was actually going to the muscles to prepare this person to run like heck to get out of the way. You may have heard of stories about people that there's been a car accident where a child has gotten injured and the parent becomes so strong they can actually lift the car up so that the leg can be pulled out. And this is the power of fight or flight that happens. Now, if we look at that process, what happens is the brain has, if we would pretend this is the brain and this is the reptilian part of the brain, this part here is called the neocortex, and this little part here is called the amygdala. And the amygdala is very important. It's hooked up to something called the hippocampus, and which is the control center of the brain. So when there is this state of fight or flight, the brain kind of flips its lid and then amygdala pushes itself out, but it is the communicator to the rest of the body. And then down in the spine, connected to the colon, is something called the vagus nerve. And that vagus nerve is always asking, that whole nervous system down the spine is asking the question, am I safe? Do I matter? Am I safe? Do I matter? Every 3 to 4 seconds. And when that vagus nerve, when that nervous system in the spine can be calmed, then what happens is everything goes back to the way it was before. Now, in situations where there's minor stress happening, so let's say that you're out on the street and someone notices your visible disability, then you might have a feeling depending on how they respond. So then maybe you flip your lid and, then over time, 20 minutes after you're feeling less stressed, your nervous system calms down again about 20 minutes after that. And what's happening in the meanwhile is there's all this communication happening between the amygdala and the hippocampus, all the way down to the vagus nerve that's spread throughout the spine, and flipping that up, saying that you're not safe. And then there's adrenaline and cortisol pumping in through your system. And if you have a lot of cortisol and adrenaline pumping in a lot, like if your brain's going like this a lot, like you're feeling stressed frequently all the time on a regular basis, then that's going to be very taxing to your system. So what we want to do is we want to calm the nervous system as quickly as possible. And that can be done through many ways, many ways. But one of the ways that can be effective, and if you look on, you do tons of Google searches, it's breath. Breath is very important, breath work. And so, what I'd like to do is in a couple minutes, I'd like to explain a breath technique that I learned from my homeopathic doctor, Dr. Schmitzman, not Schitzman, Schmitzman, Dr. Schmitzman, who studied Chinese medicine and homeopathy, but was a GP doctor before that. But before I do get into that, I do want to talk a bit about fight and or flight, because the body responds pretty much the same way to both fight or flight. But the fight, the fight side of things brings up specific emotions that are different than the flight. And I just wanted to tell you about this because I think you might find this kind of interesting. So obviously when we're going through a stressful experience, when you're going through a stressful experience, you're going to have emotions that are going to rise. And that is if we look back to the brain, so this is a reptilian brain, that's the survival brain, that's the brain that's just functioning. It keeps the body functioning no matter whether the other brains are working or not. And then we have over here the emotional, some people call it the emotional brain. So that is also active, right? Because if we didn't have any emotions, then after the incident was over, we would just go back to normal and everything would be hunky-dory. Which can't happen if it's a minor incident. But often we do have emotions and opinions involved in that process. So going back to this concept here. So in the fight or flight state, the emotions that are key that come up are anger, which makes sense, irritability, rage, anything along that sort of spectrum. And that's how you can differentiate the fight from the flight. The flight is all about fear. It can be about anxiety and worry and grief. It can also be about terror. It's not very often, I imagine, that you might feel terror in your life. So I would maybe recommend, unless you notice that it would be more equated with things like fear. For example, the fear or uncertainty of not knowing what's ahead for you in your life while living with MS. And if you start thinking about it, then you might notice your breath gets shallow and you're breathing from your chest and your heart rate goes up. And so you have that kind of reaction to stress initially. And that might not even be a fight or flight. You might not go into that right away. You might just have that tension in your body. And so what we want to do is, first of all, and this is I think really important, is we want to acknowledge the feeling that's there. So if that feeling is anger, we want to allow that anger to be there, just welcome it in and notice that it's there. If it's fear, we want to acknowledge it and notice it's there, because when you acknowledge that in yourself, what you're doing is you're starting to calm the amygdala, starting to calm that little amygdala so that this is possible to happen with the brain at the beginning of that. That's not necessarily enough. So then we want to get into some breath work. And there's different techniques that can be used. And this one is kind of interesting. It's part of a bigger system of breath work. I think that you'll find it quite interesting. Whoops, I'm making a little bit of noise below my feet here. um, what we're going to do is we're going to do something that I'm going to call it for this purposes nose breathing. And this is part of the respiratory gymnastics that I have learned from Dr. Schmitzman. And I find that going through this process can be good because number one, it actually puts your attention on something else. Now, obviously, if you're out and about, you won't be able to do this. So I'm going to give you another breathing technique as well. And this is one that I often give. So let me just give the quick and dirty one first so that you have that. And then you can see what this other one is about too. Okay. So the technique that I often recommend is the 4-6-8 breathing process. The 4-6-8 breathing process. And what that is breathing in. You want to breathe into your belly for the count of 4. So 4 in, hold. Hold means holding your breath. You want to keep that breath in your body because what happens then is the oxygen turns to carbon dioxide, the most of it. And then when you take a long exhale for 8, and that's just a short exhale right now as I demonstrate this because it's hard to do that at the same time. You have a long exhale that pushes out as much carbon dioxide as possible, which removes the waste from the body. And when you're doing this, because you're concentrating on that process and you're counting, that calms down the mind because you're focused on the breath, and then you're slowing down your breath in this process and you're opening up your lung capacity, which means there's more blood circulation, and you're calming down your system all the way down to the vagus nerve. And when the vagus nerve feels that it's safe, then this is what is going to happen. Now, there's more complex scientific terms around this that I'm not going to get into today. If you want to try something different and you're at home and you notice that you're feeling just everyday garden variety stress around living with MS and MS symptoms, fear of your future with MS, um, anxiety around that, feeling some grief around your diagnosis with MS, or feeling in that fight place, upset at somebody for not understanding, not getting you, somebody not listening to your needs as someone who lives with MS, for maybe the frustration that you might have around living with fatigue or unpredictable symptoms, so that kind of stuff. So what you're going to do in this case, and this is really awesome for, number one, increasing your lung capacity. So getting everything going in terms of communicating. When the lungs are increasing the capacity, then the oxygen is coming in more deeply and converting to more carbon dioxide. And that, and by breathing down to the belly, what you're doing is you're relieving that stress. Okay, you ready for it? I'm going to take you through it now. I'm kind of excited about this. And you might want to blow your nose before you do this, just so you know. Okay, so what we're going to do here is this is a breath release process that we talked about at the beginning of the video. You're going to cover our female. You want to breathe out of your left nostril first. So you're going to like thumbs up on your right. Now, if you're a guy, you're going to go thumbs up on your left. So we're going to go like this, and you're going to breathe in deeply. There's going to be a lot of noise in my nose, and then breathe out. And you're going to do that 5 times. So in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Now it's important that you seal this part of your nose. Okay, seal that part of your nose, make it nice and tight. And then after you do that, you're going to go over to the other side. So in my case, as a woman, I'm doing the left nostril second so that I'm breathing in and out of the right nostril. And I'm going to do that again 5 times. And then after I do that, I'm going to breathe in and out through my nose to clear everything out 5 times. Let's try that again 5 times. And I'm breathing right down into my belly, all the way down my spinal column. So that is the process. So it's 5, 5, and 5. So you're doing 5 on the right. If you're a woman, first breathing in and out through the nose, make sure it's sealed. Then 5 on the left, breathing in and out through your right nostril. Make sure that it's really sealed tight so the air can't leak out of this side. And then just strong breaths in and out 5 times, just freely. So give that a try. And what I have found is when you're concentrating, when you can concentrate on that, that becomes your focus. Now, like I said, if feels too complicated for you and you want to just start with the 4, 6, 8 breathing technique, do that. That's 4 counting in for 4 breaths as you bring the oxygen into your belly. Holding it for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's probably going to sit somewhere in your chest while it's there. Just try and keep it in your body so that it can do its magic of building up a lot of carbon dioxide in the body so it can push that waste out. And then 8 breaths out. Or 8 counts. 8 counts out. You're not breathing out 8 times. So those are 2 techniques. Write your comments below and know that this is part of what I'm sharing with you is part of a series that I'm currently running. And there are 2 more sessions that are live that are happening. One is tomorrow, Tuesday the 19th. You can see the details below when you click on the link in the description of this video. And then that will be the power of release. I'm going to be talking more deeply about the second phase of the nose breathing technique in that. So if you want to know more, you got to check it out. And then secondly, the last one in the series is the power of busting through adversity. And it's all dealing with the MS stress release process that I've developed, in which there are 4 parts. So the power of distraction, the power of breath, the power of release, and the power of busting through adversity. I'm Jen DeTracey. If you like this video, then you can hit subscribe below. I'd love to have you come back to watch other videos that I've already recorded and ones that will be happening in the future to provide you with some useful information about how to thrive with MS. This channel is Women Thriving with MS, and I'm Jen DeTracey, and I'm the founder. And I hope that you'll join that series because it's this week. So Tuesday the 19th and Thursday the 21st. And hey, if you can't catch it all, you get to watch the replays, but you don't get the bonus material. So check it out, and I will see you soon. Bye now.